If you're a bit older, you know just how awesome the show about Gumball and his family is. So awesome, in fact, that the word amazing used to be right there in the title. But have you ever stopped to think how many dark and twisted fan theories exist about the world of Gumball? Let's start with one of the most well-known theories, one that many fans truly believe. At some point, the Wattersons were either directly or indirectly responsible for the death of their adopted son, Darwin's biological parents. If that sounds a little strange to you, we're going to walk you through the clues that actually make this theory seem pretty solid. At the beginning of the episode, The Origins, Nicole and Richard are desperate to tame Gumball's destructive behavior because little Gumball was basically a mini wrecking ball. Their solution, getting him a pet to help calm him down. So Richard goes to the pet store to buy, every single time, a little orange fish, and over again, we see those first 7 goldfish meeting tragic ends. If you catch my drift, to put it bluntly, they all ended up flushed down the family toilet. Eventually, the pet store runs out of goldfish entirely, all thanks to the Wattersons. According to the theory, among those many fish who died were Darwin's real parents. Realizing this, the van guy, the shady salesman, buys the little orphaned baby fish and keeps him in his van, knowing that once the store runs out of goldfish, Richard would come crawling back, willing to pay a much higher price. And that's exactly what happens. Richard ends up shelling out $100 for Darwin, instead of the usual $2 to $50. The theory also says that Nicole and Richard figured it all out later, after they had already adopted Darwin as their 3rd child. In the episode The Spoiler, we see Darwin receiving his inheritance from his biological parents, a chest full of bubbles. But if we go back to the moment Richard buys Darwin, there's no bubble chest inside his aquarium, only a tiny castle. This could mean that Nicole and Richard had stashed the chest away sometime after Darwin's parents were sent to fishy heaven. And only later, once they discovered Darwin might have been one of their past pet's kids, they gave him the bubble chest as a tribute. It may sound super creepy, but honestly, it kinda makes sense, right? So now let's blow your mind and dive into 7 dark theories about the amazing world of Gumball. Across Gumball's 240+ episodes, a lot of things change, but one thing always stays the same. Besides the chaos of the Watterson family, of course. We're talking about the one and only Elmore. And by only, we mean literally the only place that exists in their universe. Think about it. Absolutely everything that happens in the show takes place in Elmore. No other towns or cities are ever shown as part of the main setting. The only exceptions are those bizarre places connected to Elmore, like the Void, that creepy dimension where Rob is trapped. But even that place can only be accessed through Elmore. Another example is the episode The Picnic, where Gumball and Darwin get stuck in the Forest of Destruction, surrounded by animals with murderous instincts. We'll actually revisit this one in another theory soon, but the main idea here is that no other cities exist in Gumball's world, just Elmore. Even in the episode The Others, where Claire and her dad are supposed to move away to another city after he loses his job, they don't. Gumball and Darwin help him land a job at the Rainbow Factory, and the family stays put in Elmore. So once again, the show leaves us wondering if any other places even exist at all, making Elmore the only known city in Gumball's universe. Directly connected to the last theory, there's an even darker one, the theory that the mayor of Elmore is behind everything that goes on there. Several clues support this idea. The first one is the fact that, up until the appearance of Principal Evil, who was actually Rob in disguise, the mayor was the only human being in all of Elmore. Even though he's short and necklace, he still looks the most human out of anyone in the entire show. Speaking of that, doesn't he remind you of a certain real-life president? The point is, he has regular hands and a normal-looking face, unlike every other character who are either part animal, part human, sentient plants, robots, dinosaurs, or pretty much anything but human. This becomes even more clear in the episode where the Wattersons temporarily become regular humans like him, and the mayor isn't just thrilled, he even starts making plans to turn Elmore into a city just for humans. But here's the twist, he might not actually be evil like he seems. Quite the opposite, really. He could actually be protecting the people of Elmore. And that brings us to the next theory. Besides the mayor, a few other characters seem to know the truth and go out of their way to make sure no one leaves Elmore. This includes Rob, who we'll talk about soon, and Miss Simeon, who's literally millions of years old and knows the world like the back of her. Well, Monkey Hand. The thing is, these characters know that life outside of Elmore is filled with destruction and death. A clear example of this is when Gumball and Darwin stop Claire and her dad from leaving town. Look closely at the people forming a human barricade on the edge of town. You'll see a sign behind them with the names of other cities, Big Bun City and Panay's Town. But notice, no one is standing beyond the town border. That strongly suggests that everyone instinctively knows that crossing that line would mean something brutal is waiting for them. Another example comes from the picnic episode we just talked about. When Miss Simeon shows the map, she insists they take a massive detour through the woods, even though the picnic spot is right nearby. Why? To avoid entering, even slightly, that strange part of the woods, which, as we soon find out, is home to terrifying demonic creatures that would never fit in with the people of Elmore because they're completely overtaken by evil. And let's not forget Rob, who tries everything to do something the mayor once wanted, to turn everyone into humans. At the end of the episode, we find out that the real idea behind it all was to keep Elmore, this one remaining safe place, protected and untouched for its residents. All of this really makes you think Elmore is a true safe haven in that world, and leaving it would absolutely lead to a painful and cruel ending. And if you're enjoying the video, we still have 4 more theories to share with you. But first, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future videos, alright? All of these theories we've shared so far lead us to one even creepier conclusion. Elmore itself is alive. Here's the idea. Certain things happen in the city with no one really behind them, and they seem like the kind of things only something with a brain could pull off. Take the episode about the Void, for example. We find out that anything deemed irrelevant gets sent to a place of absolute nothingness. But think about it for a second. For something to be judged as wrong or irrelevant, someone or something has to make that decision, right? And making decisions means you have consciousness, don't you think? So if there's no known character in charge of those choices, who's making them? The answer might just be Elmore itself, which would mean the town not only has a mind of its own, it can send people and objects to the Void and bring them back if it wants to. When I realized that, my brain nearly exploded. Another clue to this theory comes from the episode The Finale, where everything descends into total irreversible chaos. But then the city resets everything, starting fresh like nothing ever happened. The same thing happens at the end of Ghouls, when the boys accidentally make the world scary again, and it nearly ends. But by the next episode, everything is completely back to normal. All of this shows that Elmore basically has a stockpile of saved lives and can just reset the game, I mean the show, whenever it needs to. And it always needs to, thanks to the Wattersons. Still on the topic of bizarre stuff, one of the weirdest things in the entire show has to be how Anton keeps getting brought back to life. Anton is that classmate of Gumball who's actually a living slice of toast. In one of the episodes, we literally see the poor guy die over and over again. Like, yeah, it's funny, but also kinda creepy. Later, the Watterson brothers find out that even though he keeps dying, his parents somehow managed to recreate him using just a slice of bread and a toaster. But if it were that simple, anyone with a toaster could make more Antons, right? Which clearly isn't the case. This opens the door to a darker theory. Maybe Anton's parents are part of a secret cult that owns a supernatural toaster, capable of bringing him back to life. Again and again. It's kinda like what happens in South Park with Kenny, who dies in almost every episode, only to show up alive and well in the next one. Then, around season 10, it's revealed that his parents are part of a cult, and every time Kenny dies, his mom magically gets pregnant again and gives birth and raises him in one night just so he can be back in school like nothing happened the next day, because they're super poor. This whole theory about Anton is also backed up by the fact that he's been dying in ridiculous and gruesome ways since season 1, way before Gumball and Darwin ever found out about his family's creepy secret. Without a doubt, this would be the creepiest theory in the whole show, if it weren't for the next one. There are definitely a lot of creepy characters in the amazing world of Gumball, but none of them freak me out more than Daisy the donkey. Over the seasons, we slowly learned that Anais' doll actually has a mind of her own. Like that one time she straight up talked to Anais at the park and scared her so badly that Anais literally kicked her. As if that wasn't enough, she also appears in some really disturbing dreams that Anais has. Dreams where Daisy imagines doing horrible things to Gumball's little sister, which makes it clear that this doll is definitely not normal. So how is this even possible? Well, it might have something to do with what we see in the episode, The Package. In that episode, the Elmore police pull over the van guy, and one of the officers picks up a doll that looks suspiciously like Chucky from the Child's Play horror movies. Then we see the spirit that was inside the doll jump into the police officer, just like in the movies where the soul of a serial killer transfers into the doll and tries everything to possess Andy, the little boy who ends up owning it. According to the theory, that same evil soul moved from one host to another until it eventually reached Daisy. And now, the doll's real goal is to take over Anais' body, since she's the smartest kid in Elmore and has her whole life ahead of her. It's a super creepy theory inspired by Chucky, but it would explain a lot about Daisy and her weird connection with Anais. We already know the doll is alive, and now we might know why she's also totally evil. And that wraps up our list of Gumball theories. If you had fun watching, make sure to give the video a like. We've picked out 2 more videos right here for you to keep the fun going. Click on one of them and let's jump into the next one.